Hello, we're all here in Washington, D.C. for the memorial of our great friend Harvey Arden. His spiritual brother, Leonard Peltier, sent over some words. January 22nd, 2019. Greetings, everyone. I wish I could be here with everyone to honor a great friend to so many around the world, especially in Indian country, Harvey Arden. February 6th will be the beginning of my 44th year in prison. In the past 44 years, I have seen many good friends who have worked diligently to get me out of prison pass on. They wanted to help, not just because they were bleeding heart liberals, as the far right like to call them, or anyone who fights for justice, except when the fight is for them, of course. Native peoples call someone like Harvey good-hearted people. But after researching the factual records in my case and learning the real facts involved, he became first outraged and then obsessed with correcting what he believed to be more than an outrageous criminal act committed to another human being. This outrageous, corrupt conviction infuriated him when he read the words of the prosecutor, Mr. Lynn Crooks, who declared, after he was angrily questioned by one of the senior Eighth Court of Appeals court judge, that no one had been found guilty of killing anyone. Assistant Prosecutor Lynn Crooks, and I quote, after the Eighth Circuit Federal Appeals Court Senior Judge Gerald Haney asked the Assistant Prosecutor, Mr. Lynn Crooks, just what was Mr. Peltier found guilty for, as we cannot find any evidence of first-degree murder in the records against Mr. Peltier. Mr. Crooks's response was, Your Honor, the government does not know who killed our agents, nor what participation Leonard Peltier may have had in it. This admittance so outraged Harvey, he became obsessed with doing something about this, and he wrote articles damaging and exposing this corrupt conviction and the DOJ's direct involvement. It became dangerous for Harvey's career, for Harvey to reveal and expose these crimes against some dangerous people as it outraged them, the FBI and DOJ. It was and still is so unbelievable. It outraged the white Christian conservative community when they heard the evidence of the dirty work the FBI was doing for multinational corporations and mining companies. It was so corrupt what the FBI/DOJ was doing in Indian country that they acquitted my two co-defendants. People like Harvey, Peter Matheson, Robert Redford, Marlon Brando, over 151 legal scholars from the U.S. Congress, Canadian Parliament, European Parliament have condemned it as the worst trial in American history. Two appeals circuits, the 8th and the 10th, who also said, and the facts of the corruption are indisputable, of criminal activity by the DOJ. And many tribal leaders and traditionalists have vigorously supported those facts, and countless, millions of non-native peoples around the world. Not one to this day can believe all of the trial violations that was conspired and committed by the Department of Justice. Even mass murderers like Adolf Eichmann was allowed to put up a defense. But even with the great risk, people like Harvey, Peter, and others came to help and tried to save me from the slow death in a prison cell. Did you know when I first came to federal prison in 1977, I was taken to the harshest prison, USP Marion, Illinois, the replacement of the notorious death trap and torture chamber, the federal BOP's infamous Alcatraz. 30 days after being in solitary, I was taken before the inmate disciplinary committee, Captain Carey presiding, and a hearing was held and I was given another sentence. Yes, this is true. It's all recorded in my prison records. And Captain Carey sentenced me indefinitely to a sensory deprivation cell. A total darkness and silence cell with no human contact for the rest of my life, which wouldn't have been too long, I hoped. But the Supreme Court ruled it was cruel and unusual punishment. So I lucked out there, but the rest of my life has been torture. And I was sent to live in a very dangerous inmate population. Yes, people were getting killed almost daily in there by both inmates and staff. Hey, that was no surprise to Native peoples and or the poor. This was the American justice system that we, the poor, were fighting against. I could go on. Yes, there's a lot more that I could shock you with, but this is about my friend Harvey. Luckily, some lawyers had a lawsuit against this kind of treatment, and it was declared cruel and unusual punishment. So even at great risk to their careers, their safety, their family's safety, yes, they had threatened Robert Redford's family. Their help and believing in me helped a lot of many times when there was moments of some serious despair. Harvey never gave up, and if he could be there, he would go and speak about my case. Harvey also was a huge supporter for Native rights in general. He knew our history of the genocide very well, and he knows, as Peter and the others, it had never stopped. So even in his moment of most despair and hopelessness or illness, he would get up and go where he was asked to go and speak on our behalf. And he was a great writer, and I'm told an awesome speaker. I first met Harvey when he was a writer for National Geographic. I knew this was a good man with a good, loving, compassionate heart, and I loved to read what he had to say as I had read Peter's work. I never believed that one day I would meet either one of them. I tell you all of this history not to take away from Harvey's day, but because I know even today there will be people who will say he supported a cop killer and was an anti-government activist. There's no such evidence I killed anyone. In fact, as they learned, the real killers were on the other side of the incident. For those who might be doubtful, all I ask is read the facts. For those who cannot believe all of the judges that were involved, read the facts. Yes, we now have records of the FBI privately and secretly visiting the judges involved. That is illegal and a felony. So what court can I go to for justice when even the Supreme Court played their part by denying me a hearing? With all the violations listed, they refused to grant me a hearing, so that is covering up for the DOJ. In closing, we have it all on record and computerized, and is all taken out of their own files. Have a good journey, Harvey. I know I will see you soon as my time is fast closing in. I can only believe it has to be a better place than this. As for my soon-to-be 75 years on this earth, it surely has been a life of hell with a constant Sundance suffering. In the spirit of Crazy Horse, Doksha, my friend, Leonard Peltier.